Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this live Q&A after our deep dive presentations. In the room, we have my co-moderator, Pascal, who will be moderating together with me and also ask some questions in Spanish. If you have questions, please use the chat function in the tool, and you can ask your questions to our experts. Matt Stevens, he is Vice President, Electric Vehicle and Connected Car at Geotab, our founding partner. And our second expert in this live Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, is Manuel Tamayo. He is Country Head Mexico at Element Fleet Management and representing the Global Alliance Element Arval, who is our gold sponsor during the conference. Gentlemen, welcome in this Q&A. We are going to make it an engaging session. The idea is that we can moderate the questions from the audience and that we will see how it goes. So we will address a question to a specific expert. Of course, the other one can also add a comment if it's necessary. So let's go. And for the people in the room, as mentioned, you can ask your questions via the chat and use the chat function in stage on your screen and send your questions for the expert speakers. There are already a few questions that popped in. Let's start. The first one is for Matt Stevens. Matt, are you ready? Here we go. In the presentation that your colleague, Hani Hawari, gave, he mentioned the Geotab tool, and the question is linked to that. With the Geotab tool, are you seeing a trend in keeping EVs longer on the road to secure, let's say, cost neutrality with ICE vehicles, so petrol vehicles and diesel vehicles? Do you see a certain trend?
Yeah, so we are definitely seeing extending the operational life of EVs, especially on the first buyer, a little bit longer for exactly that reason, that every kilometer you drive saves you money on electric. So if you drive for more years, you save more. Part of it's also because we're seeing pretty low maintenance requirements at this point, and we're also seeing the battery degradation be quite good. So the batteries are lasting a very long time. In almost all the vehicles that we're in, the battery is outlasting the usable life of the vehicle. And so we are seeing lengthening of the ownership period. What we're seeing even more so, though, is fleets, especially in cost-constrained times, especially right now, where their fleets are really trying to save money, is to say, can we reduce the number of vehicles we have in our fleet and increase the annual kilometers traveled by each of the vehicles in the fleet? And so can I take 2 vehicles and instead replace them with 1 and increase the kilometers traveled by that vehicle, especially with new car sharing tools that make it a lot easier and more cost effective? And then if you do that, if you can actually take 2 vehicles into 1 and then have that be electric and have a really low cost per kilometer, it's a really attractive economic model. Not everyone can do that, and so there's a lot of people doing a 1-for-1 replacement, but we are seeing people own their vehicles longer with EVs to improve the economic case, or try and increase the utilization of that vehicle, usually by downsizing the fleet and using some car share tooling.
Okay. I'm going to continue on what you were saying, Matt, for Manuel Tamayo of Element Fleet Management. Manuel, you are heading a large leasing and fleet management company. Knowing what Matt just has mentioned, assuming, let's say, that fleet managers are extending the duration of their electric vehicles, because this can create more cost efficiency towards ICE vehicles. What is your advice to communicate that to the driver that perhaps expects his new company car at a certain period, and now the company is deciding from a cost perspective to keep the vehicles a little bit longer in the fleet?
Hi, Stephen and Matt and Pascal. It's great to be here with you guys. So addressing your question, Stephen, I would probably say that it depends on probably the long-term strategy of the company. No, we have seen this in the past. Concretely, if you think about the 2009 crisis, no, a lot of companies did the same, just to be a little bit more cost effective, no. in this sense, let's say if you think about the electric vehicles and that being a solution to find a reduction in costs, given the current situation of the companies, I think everyone has to be a bit comprehensive and understand that, no? Just on the overall long-term benefits for the employees on companies, it would be that at the end of the let's say the period, in the case the company has that policy, they would be able to purchase the vehicle at a lower price. No, so there's a benefit there. No, so just as a summary, I think you kind of have to summarize and to communicate very clearly to the employees why are you doing this, and just overall understanding the current situation and obviously the piece that it's on the green side, no?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, Pascal?
I have two questions in Spanish. Maybe we can switch to Spanish for
no problem
for the assistance. This is a question for Manuel about trucks. So, ¿cuál es la tendencia de los que hay para los vehículos de carga? Si hay también un desarrollo de la oferta y la demanda de vehículos eléctricos de carga en América Latina. ¿Cómo lo ves?
Sin duda hay mucha demanda y lo que vemos es poca oferta, ¿no? Vemos que los desarrolladores de vehículos eléctricos sin duda están desarrollando y poniendo un foco muy importante esto, dependiendo del tipo de camión, digamos, del que estemos hablando, ¿no? Si son clase 8, probablemente hay menos opciones. En las clases 5 y 6, que son vehículos un poco más ligeros, hay más opciones en el mercado, ¿no? El TCO todavía sigue estando un poco separado o no está, digamos, tan cercano como en los autos ligeros, pero sin duda lo que vemos nosotros en clientes y hablando un poco en la industria es empresas que están comprometidas con el tema, digamos, eco-friendly y cambiar hacia allá y hacer ese cambio, ¿no? Algún cliente que es una empresa pública nos comentaba, para mí es mucho más costoso el efecto que tendrá en nuestra acción si no nos volvemos una compañía verde a que si al diferencial de precio que tendría que pagar en un vehículo eléctrico de estas características.
I don't know if you want to add something, Matt, about the development of hybrid and electric trucks.
Yeah, so we're involved, like we're doing data logging on a few of the class 7, class 8. I think I caught a little bit of what Manuel was saying. And I think from what I understood, I agree fully. We are involved. We are seeing them come to market. I would say if you asked me 5 years ago, did I think there would be full electric class 8 vehicles? I'd probably say no, not in any time soon. I was wrong on that. I think they're closer than I originally anticipated. Having said that, where we're actually finding a ton of traction where pretty high volumes are moving pretty quickly is in the light commercial fleet. So electric vans, specifically around last mile. So I know that's not specifically the question, which was more on the higher heavy segment. We're seeing some movement there, but it's still small. In the light commercial, class 2, class 3, maybe even class 4 a little bit, there's a lot going on and there's pretty high volumes moving.
Okay, so thank you very much. I have another question in Spanish, but maybe you want to go for your question, Steven?
Well, let's go for another one, indeed, that came in. Perhaps to go with Manuel first. The question is how to break down the current financial barriers that many companies in Latin America and probably across the world might have due to COVID-19, and that can perhaps be an obstacle for investments in EVs and in new initiatives around electrification. So what is your advice to those companies that perhaps have a little difficulties and are a little bit hesitating around the implementation of electric vehicles?
Well, I think we can part the question in two. No? The first one is for companies to be closer and partner up with fleet management companies or just overall leasing companies. No, I think, I mean, talking about from our side, we have to play a key role in the development and in the renewal of technology and vehicles in these days. No? So we have to be very creative. No? We have to think together and create a good partnership with our customers, and companies have to be really open about the objectives and how we're going to get there in order to break the financial constraints right now. No? And the other part of the questions, I would say it's a little bit slower, and it's probably not so much in control of the fleet management companies and the overall companies, let's say our customers themselves, but it's let's say the benefits that governments can put in to let's say motivate and just increase the overall offer of electric vehicles right now. No, so I talked about that in my presentation, and how those subsidies are very large. It's a very large driver, or has been a large driver in the past for the China and the European market, and we need to start seeing that in Mexico. No? So together with some associations, we're working together, at least in a couple of countries, with the governments to, let's say, open their eyes and how these will bring an overall benefit to everyone as long as those subsidies start coming in.
Okay, thank you, Pascal.
And I'd just like to extend on that if I could. Like, I think Manuel is like spot on, exactly what he said. And on obviously the governments have a key role to play on the first part. And because I'm not a fleet management company, I can't say like that's where a fleet management company can provide a lot of value, because if you put EVs across your entire fleet, it's probably going to drive the cost up of your fleet. But there are vehicles in your fleet that are ideally suited for electrification, where if you put them, it is a notably lower total cost of ownership. And it is only a capital expenditure versus operational expenditure issue. And that's where, someone like Manuel and Element can really come in and help with that balance. And I can say that because I'm not Element, but that's where the fleet management company can be extremely helpful.
Okay.
Thanks for the ad, man.
Thank you. Pascal, I believe that we have all the questions in Spanish.
Yes, there is another one around infrastructure and who is investing in infrastructure. Ahora voy en español. La pregunta es que la infraestructura sigue insuficiente y uno se pregunta quiénes están invirtiendo. Algunos tienen la sensación que la inversión la van a hacer, la tendrán que hacer o la van a hacer las empresas que van a decidir de electrificar su flota, por ejemplo. ¿Cuál es tu sentimiento, Manuel?
Bueno, un poco mi entendimiento en esto es que la inversión tiene que venir en tres frentes, o va a venir cuando menos inicialmente en tres frentes. En la parte de gobierno, como lo hemos platicado, en la parte de las mismas OEMs, ¿no? Los mismos empresas que venden los autos, y en México lo estamos viendo, principalmente con BMW y Nissan, están desarrollando un network importante. El mismo Tesla está desarrollando sus estaciones de carga. Y después el tercer jugador en esto es la iniciativa privada. Y la iniciativa privada, tanto de empresas que van a desarrollar sus propias estaciones de carga, como, empresas terceras que pondrán estaciones de carga como un negocio. Para mí la parte de infraestructura y estaciones de carga se vuelve relevante cuando tú piensas en cambiar, por ejemplo, de estados o en rutas muy largas. Pero para todo lo que es, dentro del estado o cerca, de tu lugar de residencia, pues la misma estación de carga puede estar en las oficinas, puede estar en la casa. Entonces es un poco más fácil de desarrollar eso. Donde se volverá un poco más complicado es cuando tienes que hacer largos viajes y la misma autonomía del vehículo no te alcanzará para hacer el viaje, redondo en ese sentido. Mientras, y esa es una parte muy importante, pero para toda la otra, flota que se va a utilizar de vehículos eléctricos, es un poquito, déjame decirlo así, más fácil la solución, porque dentro de la misma casa, dentro de las mismas oficinas, dentro de tu mismo círculo, podrás tener esas estaciones de carga y será ese desarrollo mucho más rápido que en la primera opción que les comentaba.
Okay. Me parece que eso contesta la pregunta, pero me permito pedirte, además de eso, que significa entonces para el cliente que tiene que invertir también en estaciones de cargas para tenerlas en oficinas o para proporcionarla a su empleado si quieren usar coches eléctricos, ¿no?
Yo creo que sin duda, mira, y ahorita dices invertir, en muchos casos no sé si va a ser inversión o el mismo, o digamos la misma marca que está vendiendo los vehículos te va a proveer de esas estaciones de carga, ¿no? Pero yo creo que lo que sin duda tiene que suceder es que digamos, en las oficinas otra vez o en los patios de resguardo de los vehículos o en los mismos centros de distribución, tiene que haber estas estaciones de carga y es donde, digamos, con mayor facilidad podremos hacer exponencial tanto las estaciones de carga como los vehículos eléctricos, porque ahí, pues básicamente en el lugar de resguardo los vehículos estás cargando y al día siguiente tienes carga completa para hacer la ruta, digamos, que estás pensando.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. Thank you. We almost have to close this engaging live Q&A. Just a few short questions and short answers. Matt, what is, in your mind, the average estimated payback time for a fleet electrification program?
So for most fleets that we look at, there are some vehicles within the fleet that can have a less than 5-year payback, 3 to 5 year payback.
Perfect. Manuel, you were saying that you expect, or we expect, a TCO parity for EVs with ICEs by 2025. Do you really think that that is realistic?
Yeah, definitely. And again, also, if you think about the subsidies that might come in from governments and institutions just to make these closer together, I think it might even be before that. No, in some, let's say, in some vehicles, and depending the usage of those vehicles, right now we see a very, very close parity already in some of the electric vehicles against the let's say traditional combustion engines. No, so yeah, I think and I hope it's before 2025.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. We unfortunately have to close this live Q&A now, but of course, people in the audience, you can continue the discussion because we will now start the networking break. And so that networking break will happen in the section networking. We will have a 15-minute networking break where you can meet with the experts. So probably you can also meet with Matt and with Manuel, with the other participants, and you can visit the booths of our sponsors in the expo section. And we will come back after 15 minutes because then we will have the breakout sessions. And so you can choose the session of your choice on 11.5 in the section sessions, and you can already look into it so that you can see a little bit more what kind of topics we will handle in those breakout sessions. But for now, please enjoy the networking break. Thank you.
Thanks very much.